going on, everybody? I'm Jim Barry, and this, once again, is Miami Life, the show where we take a look at the hot topics and people that make this community so unique. And one hot topic, no doubt, is the cost of housing. Looking to rent, it's pricey. Looking to buy, it's really pricey. For example, a recent study showed Coral Gables replaced Beverly Hills, California, with the most expensive real estate in the entire nation. Add in stubbornly high mortgage rates, and it makes home buying really stressful for lots of folks. Our Betty Wynn takes a closer look at South Florida's housing affordability crunch.
Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is.
Not anymore. Buyers are trading 90210 for the 305.
I'm going to Miami.
Coral Gables, to be exact. The Gables Estates has bumped Beverly Hills off the top spot and is #1 on the list of the country's most expensive neighborhoods. This post-pandemic land grab has even knocked Manhattan off the top 10 list.
And are they looking only at the brand new construction?
Audrey Ross grew up in the Gables and is one of the nation's top real estate brokers.
We have been really the best kept secret in Miami, in my opinion. Because if one is seeking a large lot with direct access to the Gulf Stream and the Bahamas beyond, and a dock at one's house, that's Gables Estates on a very large lot.
In fact, Florida is home to 7 of the country's most expensive neighborhoods, according to Bloomberg News and Zillow. They include 2 neighborhoods in Naples, along with Old Cutler Bay in the Gables, and the 3 Miami Beach neighborhoods are San Marino Island, Palm Island, and Revo Alto Island. Real estate experts say buyers are typically from New York, California, or foreign countries.
Overall in Miami-Dade County, we have about 4 months of inventory, and sellers are getting about 97% of their asking price.
Which is making it increasingly difficult for Andres Sanchez, who started house hunting in December. He and his fiancée are trying to buy their first home.
We're getting priced out by people coming into Florida or coming into South Florida who are ready to buy all cash at that price.
Miami-Dade Chairman Oliver Gilbert says the lack of inventory is forcing home buyers to rethink their version of the American dream.
We're moving to more dense developments, condos, maybe townhouses, joint townhouses. But the idea that you're going to have a corner lot, and we just don't have the land to build that anymore.
He says the county is pushing to build workforce housing with high-density projects along mass transit corridors to alleviate both the housing shortage and traffic congestion.
So you have a situation where folks who work in the industry that drives our economy can't afford to live here, and we don't have reliable countywide mass transportation. So the amount of mass transit will actually help housing develop along those corridors.
Meanwhile, Sanchez is still living with his parents while he and his fiancée expand their search to homes in Broward County.
I don't think I imagined at 25 that I would still be at home, that we wouldn't have found something yet.
A harsh reality, as the census numbers show, nearly 1,000 people move to Florida every single day. Betty Wynn, CBS News, Miami.
All right, so we wanted to take a deeper dive into this hot topic of South Florida's hot real estate market. So we invited in Evan Goldman, president of the Goldman Residential Group with RE/MAX Advanced Realty. So Evan, let's get to the heart of this. Is this really something that started with the pandemic?
Pretty much. The pandemic kind of reshaped most of the real estate market with the concept of people working from home and not having to commute. It gave a lot of people, especially people from other states who are in colder climates or less friendly tax states, an opportunity to say, hey, I don't have to go into the office. I can live wherever I want. Let's take a look at Florida.
So we look like a deal then to them.
Exactly.
So it's simple economics then, demand driving up the price?
Pretty much. In the early stages of the pandemic, prices were still relatively low, and the demand of everybody moving here, not just from the Northeast, but Canada, California, the Northwest, and of course we've always had lots of buyers from Latin and South America and also Europe.
We saw the dilemma of that young couple in Betty's story. What's a young prospective homebuyer to do?
You know, it's very difficult in terms of, I would say, expanding their search. If they already have a starter home that they've bought, it's a good opportunity for them to capitalize on the growth and on the equity that they've built in that. But it's tough. There isn't one perfect solution for everybody.
Yeah, and one idea, I guess, is just to move farther and farther away from the heart of town. That's an option, I guess.
Correct. The further, you know, let's say you take downtown Miami, the further south and west that you go, or north and west that you go, the less expensive homes get, and the more land there is available to develop more newer construction.
So what's it going to take to ease this housing crunch here? Is it going to have to be a real estate crash? We don't want that.
No, not at all. You know, I think the market's starting to stabilize a bit. I don't think it's growing at such a rapid pace anymore. It's sort of come down a little bit. I don't think it's crashing in any way, but it's sort of stabilized a bit. And I think people have to sort of realize that the new interest rates are probably going to stick around for a little while. So to try to position themselves, because once interest rates go down, that's probably going to spur a buying spree. And so
prices are going to go up then.
Prices are probably either going to go up a little bit, or supply is going to go real far down, even if prices don't go up so much. So it's going to make it difficult.
And I'm glad you brought up that interest rate issue, because I was just looking at the prevailing rates right now, and they're like above 7%. And so that can make a big difference from, say, 7% to, say, more reasonable 4.5% mortgage. As we look at the screen, look at the difference. A monthly payment, principal and interest, nearly $2,700 a month on a $400,000 mortgage versus just over $2,000 a month if the interest rate is 2.5 points lower. That's a big difference.
Huge difference. And you know, lots of people, I think, were so stuck with those lower interest rates for so many years that it's such a shock. But the interesting thing is, historically, if you talk to the older generations, you'll find that 7% and 8% are still relatively low historically from sort of where we came from. But in this sort of new day and age where, you know, people put a lot of things on credit and they pay them back and borrow money, it makes a huge difference for sure.
Yeah. So. Townhouses, condos, are those a more reasonable option for some people?
For some people, yes, but those have actually gone up in certain areas just as much as housing has. We're such a unique market in that we've really doubled, and in some cases more than doubled, prices since 2020, which is just unlike any other market in the country.
Okay, now I will say this to you, Evan. You realtors always say, now's the time to buy, no matter what the conditions seem to be, but is now really the time to buy?
Well, we say that because if you're not in the game, you don't have a long-term investment to potentially fall back on. So I would say that now is as good a time as any. It's very hard to predict, as we've seen in the last 20 years, especially here in Miami. It's very hard to predict when the exact right time to buy is, but if you're not in the game, it's always the right time to get in the game. But it all does depend on your own personal financial situation as well. So you can, you know, in terms of need, in terms of when to sort of get in, but without being in it, I'd say you're never going to get in it.
You got to be in it to win it.
Exactly.
In other words, eventually, one way or the other.
Exactly.
Evan Goldman, thank you so very much for stopping by.
Pleasure, Jim.
On Miami Life. Thank you.
Pleasure to speak to you.
All righty.
Thanks for having me.
All right, up next on Miami Life, a local organization that provides support to parents of special needs children.
For first time in a long years, I had a one day to take a nap.
See how they help the parents and their kids by offering assistance and also comfort. Also, a couple who reinvented themselves through pottery. Find out how they are sharing their passion with others when Miami Life continues right after this. Welcome back. Well, taking care of a special needs child is often a 24/7 job. A Broward County nonprofit created a program to give parents and caregivers of special needs children some help. That includes therapy, enrichment classes, and respite care. Our Morgan Reiner has the story from the headquarters of Jewish Adoption and Family Care Options, also known as JAFCO.
Silvana Armentano said during pregnancy, she just knew.
Doing some different kicks in my womb, and then I realized that that was a repetitive behavior.
At 1 year old, doctors diagnosed her son David with autism. Everything from eating.
He will eat so fast, and then he has a problem with the digestion.
To potty training.
My son is 17 years old at this time, but he could have an accident.
To learning how to handle his aggressive behavior.
He bit me. Not only one time, I have bruises and bites all over my body.
Required Silvana to give up her career as an artist to be her son's full-time caregiver.
I have the services to hire a person to take care of him. No one wanted to keep the job because due to the severe aggressions that he was having at that time.
The exhaustion took over.
In the moment that I collapsed on the floor, I asked him, David, please help me. And he picked me up from the floor and said, give me the phone. So he bring me my phone to call 911. So he saved my life.
Doctors recommended she seek help at JAFCO.
For first time in a long years, I had a 1 day to take a nap.
Executive Director Justin Cole-Hagan said the respite homes give parents that peace of mind to take care of themselves, knowing their kids are in good hands.
We have on staff social workers, psychologists, BCBA's board-certified behavior analysts, teachers, speech language pathologists, so really the whole gamut of services that children would need.
In fact, Silvana said David's behavior has improved since he started staying 1 night a week at JAFCO.
He's able to cook a snack.
The homes,
we always have a nurse available,
are designed to be safe, comforting, and also teach the children new life skills.
Laundry, separate clothes, fold.
2 new homes are officially complete, though, ready to start helping more families in the community. 1,000 kids a year.
It's having back not only my life, also the life of my child, because he improved it in all such a ways.
If you are a parent of a child with special needs and you feel like you could benefit from this new program, it's as simple as giving JAFCO a call. They said they could probably see you that very same day. We will put that number for you right on cbsmiami.com. In Sunrise, Morgan Reiner, CBS News, Miami.
That's terrific, Morgan. Thank you. Still to come, remember all those new hobbies we tried during the pandemic? Some of us worked on our baking skills, but one Miami couple picked up pottery, and they used it to reshape their lives and create a haven for other artists. Their story is coming up. Welcome back on Miami Live. May happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month, and being able to recognize the warning signs of a mental health crisis and being able to actually help could make a big difference. My CBS Miami colleague Lauren Pastrana tells us about a local program that provides training for non-professionals on how to tackle a mental health emergency.
Think of it like CPR for the mind. Just like there are courses to teach you how to help someone who isn't breathing, there are courses to teach you mental health first aid.
It is designed to take anyone and everyone who's not a trained mental health professional to understand how to recognize those signs and symptoms in their fellow community members, in their loved ones.
The National Council of Mental Well-Being oversees the program, which is administered locally by the Jeff Mazurek Behavioral Health Center at Goodman Jewish Family Services.
So I think there's not a day that goes by where you don't need some form of mental health first aid.
Nicole Melendez is the Vice President of Strategy for the Boys and Girls Club of Broward County. She is also mental health first aid certified.
We're developing a skill set that allows us to just be more comfortable, to have vulnerable conversations about mental health with no right or wrong answer, but just to help us feel comfortable, you know, addressing issues that we may see in our everyday workplace, or again, providing a resource or tool to our children and our families at the end of the day.
The course is 8 hours long, but part of it can be done virtually. There's a test at the end, and once you pass it, you are officially certified for 3 years.
There's lecture, but there's a ton of activity and a ton of hands-on. There's videos, there's activities, there's interaction, there's movement, there's a lot of that too.
Dr. Allison Golden is a licensed psychologist. She says the course teaches participants to assess for risk of suicide or harm, listen non-judgmentally, give reassurance and information, encourage appropriate professional help, and encourage self-help and other support strategies.
It's vital that we're getting the word out and really letting people understand that this is something that's valuable and that we need to talk about it so that people feel more able to access resources and more willing to go get support.
And it's nice to just know that we have this tool belt to reach into to say, okay, I can provide these resources.
All right, thank you so much for that bit of information, Lauren. Now, during the pandemic, many of us picked up new hobbies and tried to learn new skills because, well, you know, we had more time in our hands, which brings us to this week's Persons of Interest, a South Florida couple who used that time to create a new chapter in their lives. It's a pottery studio called Of Course I Still Love You Ceramics. Trish Christakis introduces us to this very creative couple.
It's so mesmerizing that, like, at some point you're just like into the clay and like quiet. You're like lost in the process of the clay.
Christina started a pottery studio during the pandemic. She had 1 month to move out of her apartment with her partner Adam. And the next thing they knew, they found a house with a backyard, and 3 years later, created an oasis for artists.
And your new art.
During the pandemic, many people turned to arts and crafts to pass time. And many, like Christina and Adam, turned it into a business.
We actually got into it because I broke a piece of ceramics that was my grandma's, and after I was devastated, Adam was like, why don't we do kintsugi, which is the Japanese art of fixing pottery with gold and highlighting the imperfections. And as we were doing that during quarantine in our living room, we realized that we really enjoyed arts and crafts.
It's a way for her to calm her mind and relax her spirit.
This is called centering. And it's one of the most important steps because if you don't get this one right, everything else is not great. You're basically attaching the clay to the center of the wheel. It's such an immersive art that time goes by. You don't even realize how much time you've been sitting on the wheel.
Her muse, Adam, she claims, is the true artist behind it all. Now, the pandemic brought on high levels of introspection. Indeed surveyed thousands of people that resigned from their job, and 92% of them said the pandemic made them feel like life was too short to stay in a job that they weren't passionate about.
You know, it teaches you lessons, like knowing how to let go and not be too attached, patience.
Together, they're a perfect team and have found ways to create a business, art gallery, and therapy session in one. And it's hours of hard work turning into weeks of letting the art sit, all to create the perfectly imperfect piece.
Looks pretty perfect to me. Thanks, Trish, for sharing that story with us. When we come back, we're going to tell you about a Broward man who decided to spend his retirement putting a smile on kids' faces. Hear his story coming up. All right, before we get out of here in Miami Life for this episode, we want to tell you about a retiree in Dania Beach who returned to his old place of employment.
Good morning, good morning. Joshua! Happy Friday, buddy.
Herman Smith greets the students at Olson Middle School each and every morning. He arrives every day about 6 a.m. to get ready to say hello to the kids and start their day off with a smile. It is a very familiar place for Herman Smith. He spent nearly 20 years working there at the middle school as a guidance counselor after he retired from the Air Force. He decided to come back and volunteer because, well, it felt good.
When you help children, how you doing, buddy?
Hi.
You get to feel like a hero every day. you know, and and I just like that feeling.
You're not just getting out of a car and running into the school. Someone is greeting you and recognizing that you just arrived at school. And it really sets an example of how we need to treat one another.
Doesn't it, though? Some of the kids Smith greets in the morning are the children of some of his former students. His philosophy is pretty simple. Doing something for a child is the most important thing anyone can do to help make the world a better place. And Herman, I agree with that 1,000%. That does it for this week's Miami Life. Remember, we'll see you every Thursday for Miami Life at 6:30 on the stream and 10 p.m. on TV 33. I'm Jim Berry. Thanks for watching. Catch you next week.